Hi, everyone. My name is Connie.
My name's Deja.
And this is the Unity Lounge podcast.
Yeah. Today, we're going to be going into stress. And I don't know what I wrote, like, stress equals less rest, which is so true.
Bars.
I should be a singer.
Singer-songwriter. It's backwards.
So,
I want to ask you, what things stress you out, just to start?
oh my goodness. Not knowing anything. Waiting on a response from another agent because I'm a realtor. So that stresses me out because it's like I don't have any control. Mm-hmm. Basically, any scenario where I don't have control over, I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Okay, so no control over situations.
Yeah.
Gives you stress.
Yeah.
Because you have like a kind of aspect of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. And not feeling good enough as well is another thing that I struggle with. But I'm working on it. Mm-hmm. What causes you stress?
Money. Oh my gosh. I think recently it's like the more prominent thing.
Yeah.
I feel that it affects everyone, especially with the prices and everything, inflation, and like, it's funny because you're in the real estate kind of world, so it's like the housing like is super expensive.
Yeah.
But the way I try to, because the next question we have is like, how do you cope with your stresses? And I have some other things, but. Specifically with like financial and like when I feel like I'm missing out sometimes is what stresses me out. Like, oh, everyone's like getting their life together. And I'm like, I'm still figuring it out. And
that's okay.
Exactly.
That's okay.
I've kind of learned that as long as I'm putting one foot forward, it's one foot forward that I didn't have yesterday, right?
Amen.
Little steps that we're taking together to just move forward in a way that like furthers my future or whatever that means to anyone, like furthers whoever's future is. I think it's important just taking it little steps by little grammar,
little steps at a time.
Yes, little steps at a time. I think it's just mindset and trying to see these situations of like, maybe you're not at this position and there's a reason why you're not at this position right now, because maybe you don't have the resources. So how do you get to the resource? How do you get, like, what are the steps that you can take to make sure that you end up on the path that you want for your future and your kind of journey and like to live your truth type thing.
I think it's also accepting where you are in life, because our mind can be going 100 miles an hour, and just at one point physically you cannot keep up with your mind. So you're going to be emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted, and the only way to recoup from that or recover from that is finding little things that bring you peace. And implementing them in your daily routine. So you give yourself moments of de-stressing, decompressing. That is very, 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 very important.
Yes, I agree. That's literally like one of my next things. Like, I feel like there's two types of kind of de-stressing, at least for me. I categorize them as two. Like, one that's more of like a daily management that does kind of a lesser potency in a sense, and then another that's more like heavy decompressing, more intense. So that's when like you don't give yourself those little daily ones. So like for the daily ones, like we do all the time, like we go on walks.
Yes,
we talk all the time. We're like, I need my son, like I'm a plant, and then she's a dog that always needs to go on a walk.
Like I need to go outside, get fresh air, clear my mind, because I do a lot of work from home. So my brain kind of associates home with resting, but also being on call, like working, because there's no excuse. My office is my house. Like, I need to be going 24/7. So if I take myself out of that place that I associate it with, I can really have a moment to think about everything else besides work or the things that need to get done. What else do we use as coping? Like, I use reading. We both use reading. We go through these little spurts where it's like,
huge spurts.
We need to buy every book in Indigo. Just own them all. We get through maybe 2 of them. And then we're like, I can't stand to see another word.
Yeah, like, I don't want to see one more word ever again. And I think it's just because it's a binge mentality. That's really, it's not really balanced. For me, like, I love, like, my fantasy romance. Like, oh my goodness. And a lot of these books are, like, thick. Yeah. So you know damn well I'm finishing that book in, like, a night or 2. Yeah. Depending on how, like, focused and how good the drama is. But then after that, sometimes I can do, like, that book I've done before. And then, like, the first book, the second book. By the third book, you're exhausted. I'm like, I know. It's like, it turns the other way. It becomes another, like, kind of mental stress. It's like, no words, please. I need movies right now. I need a movie. And that's another way that I decompress a lot is, like, I take a full, like, sometimes it's like a weekend, a day or 2, literally in bed all day, just watching a show or not doing anything, really, not being needed by anyone or, like, just watching a show, binging, and then once I'm done, usually, like, Friday night, Saturday, by Sunday, I get up and I'm like, okay, I need to do stuff, and I feel better. I'm like, okay, I can get back into what I've been doing, or, like, my mind back, because, like, my mind, like you said, like, goes 100, you have 100 things going on, and that's literally, like, it sounds so bad. I've always said, I'm like, the voices. But they're not voices, though. But
it's literally, like, just your thoughts.
Your thoughts are so loud, and there's so many. And then the stresses of needing to, I think the stress builds up from all these voices, like, demanding so many things from you. And then you not being able to adhere to all of them right away or to deal with them like, in a reasonable pace. And you're like, okay, I can do this, but then I do that. And that's why sometimes, like, we're jumping from one thing to the other and we don't get any one thing done.
It's like you don't complete one task. You just start 10 different tasks.
Yep, 100%.
And it feels so much easier to do it that way because you're able to articulate those thoughts, like, get them out.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason they get out is because maybe those ones are more articulated than the other ones, and then those get left on the back burner. But they still have their whispers in the back. They're like, you need to do your laundry, you need to do the dishes, you need to do your taxes, you need to do this and
There's
that.
Like, so many things that we put as top priority when really they should be last priority, but in our minds it's like, no, this needs to get done, and it needs to get done now. But you're only one person. So it's hard to come to the conclusion, like, hey, prioritizing is a really big thing. If you don't prioritize, then you're literally going to get nowhere because, like we said, we start 10 different tasks and nothing gets done. Yeah. And in the end, you sit down at the end of the day and you're like, what did I even do? Because I have so many half-finished things. Yeah. So it's better to focus on one thing that's like, okay, this needs to get done today, no later than end of business day today. And if I complete this, that's enough for me. Yeah. I guess that's why I create lists.
I was thinking, actually, lists are actually ideal, I think, for that type of, like, work or, like, style of going about, because you just have your priorities. Yeah. Instead of, like, the way I do it, which is, like, I think I still use lists. I'm not going to say that I don't, but like I said before, I like to see the blocks and chunks of, like, this is when this is getting done. This is when this is getting done.
You like to associate times with the task.
Exactly. Because I feel like if I can associate the time with it, then once I do it, it'll get done in that time. And then I can do more things in there because I'm like, oh, this is going to take 2 hours. Yeah. This is going to take 4 hours. That means I can do all these things in this one day. Yeah. A lot of times, like, I don't to finish it. Like, I do most of them. But one thing I'm working on is trying to make more realistic scheduling. That I think I've gotten a little bit better. I do feel I do need, like, a tweak here and there just to actually be realistic with my time. Yeah. Especially with, like, my mental capacity. Yeah. Because when you're stressed and you're super, like, you have so many things to do, it's hard to get anything done. Yeah. So you're like, I want to get this, this, and this, but you're doing one thing and you can't fully focus on it because you have something else you have to do and this and that. So I think that's why I think priorities.
Prioritizing?
Yeah, prioritizing your list and, like, just saying, like, this needs to get done by end of day. This one by the end of week. This one by the end of month is, I think,
ideal.
A better, more balanced way of being able to schedule your life and handle your stresses.
Yeah. It's easier. Because for me, when I associate a time with a task and it takes me longer than the time I allotted for it, I feel disappointed in myself because I'm like, I'm not working fast enough. But once I eliminate the element of time, it's so much more easier for me to complete the task because I don't feel the pressure of being under a time restriction.
I feel like for you, like, having that, maybe that stresses you out more. So it, like, doesn't work for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you know.
Yeah, the whole point is to find ways that stress you out less. Because living a life full and constantly operating in a stressful environment is not healthy. Like, you can recognize that, but if you don't deal with it, it can materialize in other ways.
Physical ways.
Like health issues in themselves.
Happens a lot of times with people. Like, it infuriates me when you go to the doctor and they're like, yeah, this is just stress. You're like, I feel like I'm dying. What do you mean it's just stress? Yeah. And then the reality is sometimes these things are so mind bound that your mind is so powerful. You can tell yourself you're sick, you're negative, whatever, and that affects you physically. That'll show up in aches and pains, but it also does the opposite effect. So, like, it really does help you to think in a positive way, a better way, and just, like, also to move your body and know to de-stress. That's another way to de-stress is, like, to move your body. I think that's why we need the walks and stuff.
Well, our bodies tell us when it needs a break, and if we don't listen to those warning signs, our body is like, okay, you're not listening to me. I'm going to make you listen to me. You're going to take a break. You're either going to catch a cold where you're out for like 3 days, but it forces you to rest. It forces you to decompress. That time that your body needs to regenerate itself and new cells to be able to go on throughout a daily routine or daily basis.
Or the way you've been going.
Yeah.
Like at the pace that you're going.
Yeah, like, I'm very, like, fast-paced. Like, as soon as I open my eyes, I start working.
That's crazy to me. I don't You're up. And I look beside, and she's out here on her computer, hasn't changed out of her PJs, nothing. I'm like, girl, I need, like, 2 business hours, at least, before I'm up and running again. Like, no one talk to me. I need to be just silence, looking at the wall for a little bit, and then I get up.
But I think that's how it's supposed to be. Like, functioning like me, like, opening your eyes and, like, okay, I gotta respond to emails. I need to reach out to so-and-so. Like, for me, working, I like to work more in the morning. So then when it reaches, like, afternoon time, I'm either getting responses, and so I'm finishing off my work schedule, or I'm done. And I just have the rest of the day to do as I please.
I'm not gonna lie, that's like a smart way of doing it. But
it's stressful.
The only thing I would say is that I feel like if you give yourself like the slow waking up and then you get in, it's a more of like a relaxed way of doing it. Yeah. But because you wake up like sudden and not sudden, but like you get up and then you're like, I gotta do this, gotta do that. Like I feel like, I'm not a scientist or anything, but I feel like your cortisol, your like stress levels just shoot up and you're like, oh my gosh. And that, I think that comes in with like stress anxiety and all these like other things that come in. Yeah. And it's just that affects you, and then you're just like tweaking.
Yeah. Like stress and anxiety go hand in hand. It's not good. Like, I recognize that it's not good to wake up and start working, but then at the same time, my brain doesn't stop working until a task is done. So it's like I wake up and I'm like, I need to do this so that I can relax.
Yeah, exactly.
So it works for me just because, like, I naturally get up at like 8 a.m. now, and I do give myself like 10, 15 minutes to like slowly wake up, whether it's mindlessly scrolling through TikTok or Instagram for that time. But I find that that's a very dark hole to fall in the morning, because like you're mindlessly scrolling, and so an easy 5 minutes can turn into an easy hour of not being productive. And I find myself like that, so I try to avoid my phone in the morning. But there's other ways, like I could wake up, say a prayer, do my little daily devotional, something that doesn't involve being stimulated by my phone screen. But it's a matter of changing routines, and it's really hard to break a habit, but once you do, you definitely do see changes.
Oh, 100%. Like, I always see videos on TikTok of girls who are like, oh, if you do wake up early, have the extra glass of water, like, go out for walks, eat healthy, work out, blah, blah. Life does get better. And they're, like, kind of pissed because they're like, I wish I just could complain about it, but I'm actually doing it and it works.
It's like, what you're saying is very valid, and I'm mad at the fact that I know it's right and I'm not doing it. But that just goes more into like self-reflection and like self-awareness. Some of us, like I find myself, I have a lot of self-awareness, but at times I don't. Where it's like I'm mindlessly doing things, or I'll be having a conversation with someone, but I have so many things or thoughts going on in my brain that for some reason seem like a priority to me, that I'm not listening to the conversation. I'm not in the moment. And that's something that I've been struggling with the past few months, where it's like, I want to live in the moment. I want to be present in every moment that I'm in. I don't want my mind to be somewhere else, whether it's work or thinking about how I should have handled a situation differently, or how do I go about doing this business venture. Like, I just want to be present, and I want to have a conversation with somebody, like fully giving them my undivided attention.
Fully like aware of everything. Yeah, no, I feel that. It's crazy. Like, sometimes you're just talking and it's nothing. It's because so many things are going on inside your head.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's nighttime. So like, it takes me a while to wake up, and if I don't work out, like I had a schedule before, which I was like, I get up, I go to school, and then I work out, I use the gym, and it's like, I think I force myself to get past that point of like lowness, which I experience in the morning. And it helps me because it's like, it accelerates my heart rate. Like, I'm going up and I'm doing everything. But if I don't do that, it takes me a lot more, like, I don't want to take coffee. Like, if I don't have to drink coffee, I do my best not to. Because I know how bad it is, especially I heard that for women, it's like leeches, like vitamins or stuff from your body and stuff, and I'm like, from your bones, like calcium or something. I don't know where this is coming from, but I think I saw it on TikTok or like Instagram. But anyways, I know that like it's just not good too, because it makes you generally dehydrated, and like I don't like to lean on things like pre-workout. Like I try not to. I don't really use pre-workout, but there's some days that I acknowledge, because I don't use these, that I can't go full on. Right? But then now I have been going to the gym for a while. So I'm like, I think my stresses are building. Because I've been like, that's why we go on our walks. I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, we should do this every day. And then
it's like, at least get our steps in. It makes a difference. It gives all that energy, that pent up emotions or whatever you call it, an outlet, somewhere to go. And I think that's why lifestyle plays a really big factor into your cortisol levels, your stress levels, because exercising, that's a really good outlet.
Such a good outlet. Like you said before, if you're mad, just work out. It's the best pre-workout. Anger
this is the best pre-workout for me. Like, if I'm frustrated or I'm angry about something, I used to go work out, and it would be the best workout ever. I've cut out caffeine out of my life for over 6 months now, just because like health reasons I can't have it. But before I would take like 2 scoops of pre-workout. Sometimes I wouldn't take anything, but it would feel like I took 2 scoops of pre-workout, and I would just work out for like 2 hours straight. Like, it was crazy. There were times where you worked out with me and you're like, Dej, like, how are you still going? And I'm like, I don't know.
I'm just so like pent up with energy, with stress, with I think for you was anger sometimes. You're just like
negativity, like all those negative emotions.
That was an outlet for
that was an outlet for me, because I don't yell, I don't argue, I don't like confrontation. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But where I would take all those pent up emotions would be to the gym and then put on some music and work out. And after I work out, it's just the amount of serotonin and dopamine that you feel. You're like, wow, this is great. Why don't I do this all the time? And then you feel sore the next 2 days and you're like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah. I think you're also, the reason I explained once was that I work out because I have so many stuff going on in my head. It allows me to have like an outlet that I de-stress, so that I'm so tired that at nighttime, because I struggle sometimes to sleep because my thoughts don't stop. And I want to be up and just keep going and going, but I'm like, I know I have to stop. I know I have to sleep. So when I work out, especially when I work out like hard, it forces my body to go to sleep, which now that I say it sounds bad. But like, it's almost like an abuse to my body. It's like, no, you don't want to go to sleep, I'll make you go to sleep.
It's in a good way.
Yeah, it's not
too excessive, because once you get a little bit too excessive, then that's where you start walking into like health issues and
for sure,
bone and muscle issues. But I think it's a way to exhaust your mind,
your body, to lead your mind to be quiet.
But it also quiets your mind too when you're working, because you're hyper fixated on having the right form. Or, okay, let me beat my best personal record, my best PR. Like, that's what's motivating you. That's your why. That's your drive.
Or you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like,
Yeah. It's like, I'm like a little bit slim thick now. Like,
let's go.
And it's just easy to fall into a routine like that, because it's a way of making your body and mind feel good. It's really good for your mental health and physical health. And stress does play a really huge role in people's mental health, because a high amount of stress can lead you to some very, very dark thoughts.
100%.
And nobody wants to get to a place like that where you don't have the right support system. At what point will those thoughts drive you to?
Exactly.
So making sure that your lifestyle incorporates some decompressing or exercising, or even the food that we eat, like high sugar levels, refined sugars. There is definitely a change in like energy, even behavioral.
You can see that in little kids more often than not. Like, just give a little kid like sugar, straight sugar, they're bouncing off the walls. And then give them like a proper meal and they're more calm.
Like natural sugars, like strawberries, fruits, vegetables,
and just like meat. Give them meat. Let them like eat a proper meal, and they're a lot more calm, or like they don't have like the attitude, or like they're not like jittery and need to get or start doing tantrums and stuff like that. So I think that
it helps your brain function, because if you're eating the right foods and you're nurturing the right things, it falls into other aspects of life. But you have to do your research. Like, don't just take something because it says it's organic.
Oh, yeah. Like, especially nowadays when you could literally just buy the trade thing and then you rack up your price. And at least in Canada, I know, I think there's some brands that have done that, and I don't remember which one they are, but I've heard of that being done. I'm like, that's shady.
And listen to your body as well, because certain diets that work for some don't work for others. It's like me, if I were to cut out carbs, I did a juice cleanse once, and on day one of no carbs, I literally felt like I was dying. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say go so hardcore, but slowly integrate little things that would make a difference. Like your mom, she's on a carnivore diet, but at the same time, she doesn't follow it like a rule book. She uses it as guidelines.
She uses it however she wants because she does have some health issues. So she just kind of, it's essentially an elimination diet from what I know. Like if you do that with anything, it'll probably help you figure out what you need to figure out for your health. Like for her, she just cut out like carbs, sugars, breads, and then we used to eat a lot of bread. She doesn't eat bread now, and then she's been feeling better, so she's like, okay. And sometimes she has like one piece of bread, and then like her stomach's upset, she doesn't feel good, and she's like, okay, it's the bread.
And that could cause stress too, because like if you're not feeling good and you're like, oh well, I can't work, and then if I can't work, I can't make enough money, and the bills are coming up, and it falls into everything. So you need to pay close attention
to your body. Just listen to it. Like your body knows. It's been with you. It is you. Like it's part of you. It is you. It speaks.
It knows what it needs. Like there were times where our bodies craved olives.
Oh my gosh, just say olives. I don't want olives.
I hate olives. I never used to like olives, but
love
there was
olives, but I know. For you, I was surprised when you were like, do you want some olives? Split about a little thing, a container of olives. I'm like, say less.
Like I was like, my body was very specific. It's like, I need green olives and I need it now. And when I did my research, it just means that your brain needs those oils, like the good oils, to help function better. And like it helps with brain fog, I think.
I think that, and like avocado as well. Like you love avocado toast, and sometimes you're just like, I just want avocado toast, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like it doesn't matter, because I actually have avocado. Like in my culture, it's regular to have like in breakfast avocado toast and tomatoes and eggs. So when I first introduced you to avocado, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is cool. But it's I think the oil, the fats in it, that's the good ones that they need for your brain, especially because you use your brain a lot when you're thinking, you're figuring out timing, places, like looking through listings and everything.
If your brain is functioning on at full capacity,
it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. Oh, there goes Toby. It makes a huge difference, and stress level wise, it feels like you can actually process what you're thinking properly.
And you can make choices.
Or
like decisions in your life. You feel like you're not like fogged out because you're like, I don't know where I'm going, blah, 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 blah. But if like you're eating properly, you're like I wrote here, you can't put diesel in a gas car.
Amen.
Like, bruh.
We don't know much about cars, but we know.
Honestly, I put gas and I put /petrol. I'm like, technically, I don't know what. Is it the right way? Like, I just say gas. I know diesel's different from gas. I don't know the specifics. But, like, if you don't give your body the right fuel, you can't expect it to function at 100%.
Amen. Amen. Preach it, sister. Preach it. What's a misconception that you think you have about stress?
That it's all bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all bad. I think it's sometimes it helps for you to preserve your way of life in a sense. Like
keeps you on your toes a little bit.
Sometimes like even just regular stresses, like we'll go extreme. Like the like I'm thinking like the Scream, like about the serial killer, you know, like the old movie The Scream.
Yeah,
The Scream.
Well, I know of it. I have never watched it. I am not one for scary movies.
No, I've watched the parody.
Scaredy cat.
You know Scary Movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Scary Movie. That's the only reason like I watch it, because it's funny. But like the whole idea of like when you're like on your toes, you kind of need that stress to be able to react quick and react in a way that like saves your life. Like that's where you need it. And then on like a lower scale, you probably need the stress to be able to stay sometimes like procrastinating the stress of an assignment or a deadline coming up. You need that anxiety to be like, oh my gosh, I need to do it now, or I know I'm not going to do it. So that gets you started, that gets you going. Or like that in a little bit larger scale of like, I need to let's say I need to start this podcast now, because it's better if I do it now. I'm not going to do it later. If I do it later, it'll be too late.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just to start whatever we want to start as soon as possible. Or like the stress of the anxiety of, oh my gosh, maybe someone will do it before me.
Or
possibly.
like, oh my goodness, maybe if I never get the motivation to do it, like what it would have happened if I started it.
Exactly.
It's the what ifs for me that like stress me out. Like, what if this happens? Like, I know I want this, so what if I do this? Will it lead me to that outcome?
Yeah.
And that creates a certain amount of stress too, because you're like, I see myself here in this amount of years, and I know we shouldn't put a timeline to things, but as humans we do that.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, we don't have that much time on this earth. Like, our days are numbered.
Quite literally.
And like, once, like, from when you're a baby till high school, that's not even that's not even like the beginning of adulthood. From 20, I think, like, you've started your life from 20.
I want to say 23.
I was gonna say 23 too. 23 to 30, I think that's when you've started your life.
Or you start to come to the idea of what you want and form a plan of how you're gonna get it or where you want to be. Like, for me, I always know where I want to be. I don't exactly know the details of how I'm gonna get there, but I'm like, I'm gonna get there, yes or yes. Like, there is no other option for me.
But like, and then after, it's just the living in what you've chosen as a young adult.
Yeah.
Which I think you're still a baby when you're in your 20s, especially your early 20s. Like, you're legit just a baby coming out into society and learning so much compared to in high school. Like, if you're out there and you know a little bit more about life, depending on the way your life has been. But on average, I think it's just like a precursor to the actual living life outside in society. It's very different.
One thing that I read, I think it was on Instagram or something, where it's like, don't beat yourself up. You're only, you really only really count numbers after 20. So we're 24. Technically, we're really only 4 because it's only been 4 years in adulthood. But yeah, it's just, we put so much pressure on ourselves. Like, you need to have it figured out by your early 20s. Like, or if you figure it out a little bit later, it's too late.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever too late, per se. Like, maybe you could have started the process a little bit earlier. But I don't think it's ever too late to start a passion project or start doing a career that you love, because at the end of the day, you're the one that goes to bed with yourself.
Exactly.
So it's better to be proud of yourself than stressed over something that literally means nothing to you.
I think it's like you said, like, I've seen a lady who I think she does like a video or something. It's like, if you don't make it in your 20s, you can make it in your 30s. You can't make it in your 30s. Like, there's no limit to when you can, quote unquote, make it. But I think essentially what that means is that you have whatever you're thinking in your head, or like the dream you've been wanting to follow, when you'll actually take a steps toward going towards it, like to do it actually. And I think the worst thing or the saddest thing someone could do is know that they want to do something and be like, nah, maybe in the next lifetime. Which is what I did for the longest time, when I was like,
why limit yourself though? Like, we can make our reality anything that we want it to be. Whatever we believe is what we're gonna get. So if you're believing and you're thinking that the negative things are constantly happening to you, guess what? They're going to keep happening to you. But if you think of like, hey, like my brother says, like, it's limitless. You're limitless. The only person that puts the limits on yourself is you.
Yeah.
Why? there's so much out there. There's so much potential that you can tap into to have everything that your heart's ever desired. Something that you've always wanted. It's not out of reach. It's not out of pocket to want things. But you have to be willing to put in the work and have the discipline and self-control to get there.
Yes, that is huge. Like your brother preaches about it all the time. Yo, plug him. What's his
Nigel Daly.
Nigel.daily on Instagram.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. But yeah, he does a lot of great content of just like going towards your dreams and your goals. And I think like the important thing is to focus on how it's not that you can do everything. It's that you can do what you want specifically. Like if you want to do something, there's nothing that you're the only one who can stop you to actually go towards that. Because there's people who have nothing, and because they have this in them for this so passion. Long, this passion, they're even just like, I don't even want it for money. Like I just want to do it so that I can feel good about myself every time I wake up and
feel fulfilled. Like it's not even about feeling good, it's about feeling fulfilled, feeling purposeful, being inspired, and just sharing what you've learned. Because I find that if nobody shared what they learned, everybody would have very limited mindsets. Somebody has to be willing to share the information with everybody.
Facts.
Because if everybody keeps everything to themselves, where do we go to learn? Where do we go
to grow?
Yeah. And it also comes down to the people that you surround yourself with. It can make you stress more depending on the people that you're around, just because you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many expectations. Like I need to perform at this level. And nobody's telling you this. It's just this narrative that you've put in your mind. But you find that once you're out of that environment, you're like, okay, it's really not that deep what I was worrying about and stressing over before. Like half of the stuff I was stressing over isn't even in my control.
Exactly. I think it's a double-edged sword, especially like I'm thinking right now like competition. Like when you're the stresses of like an athlete, like there is the like, oh my god, am I gonna be enough? Like, is this like, am I good enough? Whatever. And I think there's a point where you can look at that and just say, and all these things are up against me and I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna be the best, do what I can. And then the other side is the other possible way that people sometimes they take it, they go too lenient, so they're like oh, this stresses me out, I'm not gonna do it. But you have this dream inside you, and I think that sometimes comes out as laziness or like just unwilling to face the reality of things. It's gonna be hard. Exactly. Insecurities, and that it's gonna be hard work. Like not everything that you want is going to be easy. And then if you really want it, you look at these stresses, you say, this is serving me for this reason. So I'm stressed about this because it's giving me wanting to, like, the anxiety of time, because I need to be quick about this, because if I don't do it now, it'll be difficult. Like specifically for athletes, they are a little bit more restricted with time, because you can't, your body can't do it for too long.
Like by the time you reach your 30s, you're kind of a veteran in that game.
Not saying that
like age is a thing, like, but
you have to work harder. Like it's a different.
It's
type
not as easy.
Exactly. You have more of a opportunity when you are younger. Although there are people who have done it after in their 30s and they're like amazing, but that's because they have that mindset. For them, nothing has limited them, because they're like, "What if I can think the way I can? I'm gonna do what I want. Like it doesn't matter how old I am." They don't see that.
But I also think they don't just limit themselves to one thing. They become good at a certain, I guess, what would you say it? Certain venture in life. Yeah, craft in life. But then they're not afraid to, like, open up different avenues and go down them and be like, hey, I'm also good at this.
Yeah.
Let me start this business. And so it still gives them a sense of purpose even when that craft comes to an end. They still feel not like needed, but important. Like they don't lose their value once, say, their basketball career ends. There's other things, like look at Michael Jordan. He has
and like Shaq, like he's like gone into so many other things. I think then that's like being also a businessman to learning, and he didn't limit himself because he's like, I'm gonna learn what I want to learn. I got the I got the money. I'm gonna be my own businessman. I'm gonna be this and that, and
that's great.
I feel like that's digressed a little bit.
We digressed from stress, but I feel like stress comes
it could all come back.
It all comes back to stress, because stress at the end of the day comes when you're not doing something that you love. That's when the really heavy stress kicks in.
Or you're not living the life you want to live, fundamentally.
Or you lose your purpose. Like, you lose your why. Like, your why for anything, like I said before in other podcasts, is what drives you. If you lose that spark or that want to keep moving forward, there's no point. Like, you don't see the purpose in it anymore.
That's true.
And when you don't see the purpose in anything, that's what brings stress as well, because it's like, well, I'm just doing this because of this, but it's not what I want. And so I think that's like another misconception too. Just, like you said, stress is not always a bad thing.
Like, I mentioned, like, it's a double-edged sword. I think stress can be used to your advantage if you know how to use it.
Perspective.
And that helps to have perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because you have that perspective where you can look from many different angles and then be like, okay, so I'm going to use this stress to motivate me to get me through this, because I know it can do that for me, and this is how it's going to help me, Exactly. You got to weaponize your enemies to put it in a way.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we've got kind of on the idea of stress. I didn't think it was going to go as long as it did, to be honest.
I guess we had a lot to say.
Yeah, it's because we go out and explore other ideas as well, and then try to always bring it back to the theme that we start off with. Yeah, and it's been an interesting ride, you know.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We appreciate you guys.
As usual, thank you. We love the support.
Yeah, it's crazy to think we're on pod number 6, I think.
I don't even know anymore.
Let me see.
Yes, this is number 6.
So that's really amazing. Like, we're almost there to the 10 podcasts.
10. Wow.
What was the stats that you were told again?
Oh yeah, someone told me, a shout out to Brent. I need to look, but he's on YouTube too. You should check his stuff out. He's a thrifter and he does cool YouTube videos, but he was telling me about how the stats of, I think it was 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3, and the episodes that make it past 3, 70% or like a lesser percentage make it past episode 21. And that kind of stood out to me for a while, just because I think it's like a big thing. Okay, say 90%, and then 90 of those, it's 90 and 90. So 90 to episode 3, and then 90 don't get past episode 21.
So we're past episode 3,
which is great.
We beat the first odds, and I know for a fact we're gonna beat the second odds. But I think hearing those stats kind of puts that in perspective for us.
I didn't even think about that perspective. Like, it was, I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking with you that I was like, I didn't even realize that these odds were a thing. And I think, like, it's cool to be able to look at it and be like, okay, so we did meet these odds. This is almost like motivation to get past these points
to keep going. Like for us, it's always been yes or yes. Like this, we're gonna keep doing this because this is our baby. This is our passion. Like, well, not our passion per se, but it's fun to us.
Yeah,
it's a new hobby. And we're learning so much.
It's something different to do, and something where it's only us. Only we have our hands dipped in the pot.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else that's really